Hey friends, we were so excited to sit down and have a virtual Q&A with Tom and Jerry's director, Tim Story. He was so much fun to talk with. We had a great time learning all about the movie, what they've done to bring this movie to life. So sit back and enjoy the interview.
Here with us, Tim. As you know, we got a bunch of people here ready to ask questions, so we're just going to dive right in.
Let's do it.
First up, we're going to have Adam Cohen from Dada Rocks. Adam, you ready?
It's Mark, Adam's
Mark.
son here. I'm a really big fan of the old Tom and Jerry cartoons, so I was just wondering, what was it like implementing the classic 2D animation style to the 3D in the real life world?
It was we had to be it was painstaking in the sense that we knew we didn't want to do like a 3D version of Tom and Jerry. We never wanted to act as if they were real. We always wanted to say these are cartoons and we're not apologizing for that. So but we also took it through a 3D or CGI workflow. And then they created a way in which the lines would look hand-drawn. So we found a computerized way to make 2D animation. Because if you did it hand-drawn, it would take us probably a year and a half, 2 years to just do the animation. With this way, we could do it in months. So it was painstaking, but I'm glad you brought that up. We wanted to be sure that adults, especially who grew up on this stuff, but also kids that are being introduced to it, saw Tom and Jerry the way they remember Tom and Jerry, and it would never be kind of a, what is that? We wanted to get them as close to what we remember as possible. So hopefully we were successful with that.
Great. Next up, we have Fantastic Life, Lynette and her family.
Hi, I'm Lynette. This is my son, Caleb.
Hey there.
Question.
Okay.
Can you share any fun facts about the film?
Fun facts. I'll let you know that although we were in New York, we shot the entire movie in London. So we had to create New York. We did get photography from New York, but every time our actors were on the outside set, all of that was in London, and we would just put the background of New York into shots so that you thought we were in New York. Hopefully we were successful. And then I guess another fun fact is that anytime Tom was in a scene, we had a puppet of Tom that we used on set, so the actors would have somebody to act against. So I used puppets for the first time. And then we would take them out and put in the animated Tom.
Those are some great ones. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Next up, we have Megan Cooper from John Monkey.
Okay. Hi, this is my daughter, Adelia, and she's going to ask her first question.
Cool.
Why did you choose to just make the animals animated?
I'm sorry, I've got dogs barking. Just say it one more time. Sorry about that.
Why did you choose to make the animals animated?
Well, it's interesting. The script came to me, and that was an idea that the studio had a while ago. And it's one of those things that I thought would be really interesting. I don't know if you ever saw a movie. There's a movie called Who Framed Roger Rabbit that maybe you'll go back and watch. And that was kind of one of those movies. And there's been other movies where they've combined animation. Mary Poppins is one of the first that did it. And I'm the original Mary Poppins. So we just always knew that because we were dealing with Tom and Jerry, one of the ways to make this film interesting would be, okay, we didn't want to do a complete animated movie because you kind of seen that, So we thought, what it would be like if Tom and Jerry was in a real world, and when they destroyed something, it was actually stuff we know and we're in, and and you're in hotel rooms or cars. So we kind of always knew we wanted to do that because we thought it would be the most fun for kids, but especially adults, to see these iconic characters in a real world. And so we decided to go that route. Hopefully it was entertaining.
Thank you.
Great. Our next question is going to come from Rachel Berry from Pretty and Baby Food.
Introduce yourself.
My name's Emily. I'm 5, and we want to ask you, how did Tom and Jerry come into the world?
The real world.
How did they? I guess I'll tell you how we made it happen. We used a computerized system of creating CGI characters. And so we would shoot the scene just like you would, in a regular movie with the actors. And the actors would most of the time have to either act against a puppet or in some cases act against nothing. They would just have to say the lines to nothing and act as if they heard something. And sometimes I'd be offset reading their line, the other lines back to them, or I would say what Tom and what Jerry is doing. And then after that, we would take the footage and our computers would go to work and just basically create Tom and Jerry inside of a computer and then place them inside of our footage. And that's basically how we brought it to life.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Our next question is going to come from Chelsea from Someday I'll Learn.
So asking, I did it. We're on mute. Ask. Hi. Who was your favorite character? Like, was it Tom or Jerry? Or anyone else?
I'm a big Jerry fan. A really, really big Jerry fan. Just because Jerry's got a swag, nothing rattles him. He's kind of cooler than Tom. Some will argue with me, but I just think he's really cool. And I always loved, from my childhood, I always loved that Jerry had his own home with all the little things that we would have in our house, but in a mouse size.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chelsea. Our next questions come from Candy Palooza.
Hi, Tim. Can you tell us about that epic and amazing animal tornado?
Yes. Well, the animal tornado, it was an idea that came up while we were in preparation for the film. It wasn't necessarily in the script. And it really came out of, at that point, I think we had already shot the apartment sequence, or at least we had figured out what the apartment sequence was going to be. And at some point we knew we were going to be in this lobby and they needed to destroy the lobby. And the idea just came up that, well, we can't just have them run around, because we did that in the apartment or in the hotel room. And so we thought, okay, since we're adding a dog and it's a cat, dog, and a mouse, if they spun really fast, what would that be like? And so the idea came up is, what if they created like a tornado which would destroy the lobby faster? And so that's where the idea came up, and we just kept taking it. And of course, at some point you throw some elephants and a tiger in it and it even gets more destructive. So that's where the idea came up, is how to destroy a room faster and bigger.
It was awesome. Congratulations.
Okay, great. Our next question is going to come from Ashley and her family from Ashley & Co.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi, Tim. I'm a really big fan.
Oh, thank you.
So much fun to be talking with you right now, right this moment. And I really
thank you.
Call. How did the bird sing that well?
What's great about doing animation later is that in both cases, whether it's the rap or whether it's the singing at the towards the Pigeon's latest, I guess it was I won't say the end, but it was his last performance. We just thought, we found a song that we loved. And what's great and what we have to do in these situations is, once you have it early enough, you can then take that song and basically the animators will take our character that we've created and literally frame by frame have them do what the song does. And it's really cool because they'll show it once and then you can say, hey, I wish his neck went up high, it stretched a little bit more. And you can add stuff to the animation as the animators are starting to figure it out. And so we just had a lot of fun, and that's all they would do, is make sure that it looked, and we would keep pushing it and keep pushing the animation until it felt as real as an animated pigeon could feel in singing a song.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great question. Our next question comes from Meredith and her family from the Mom of the Year.
How did you do the drone scene?
The drone scene. So what we did first is we would it's called previs. And what previs is we figure out what we want to do in the sequence. So we come up with all the ideas. Hey, what if he went under this car? What if he, if they jumped up in the air and he caught onto so we would come up with all the ideas and we would do it's almost like you guys are doing your own little hand-drawn cartoon. And we would take that and we would make a whole sequence of what we think the idea would be. And then once we have the idea kind of sketched out, as you might say, we then literally take a camera crew to New York and we shoot all of those shots. And some of the shots are more complicated. And so what we do is we have that camera crew photograph New York. And what you do is you create literally a digital version of New York. And that way, I don't know if you guys ever been on Google Maps or anything like that, and you literally can move through the city. Even though we're not there, we have physical pictures of every building, and sometimes we have to add people and this and that. And we literally would combine the actual footage with computer footage of New York or computer photographs of New York, and basically the drone was completely fake. It never was real. It's a total CGI digital version of a drone. And then obviously our characters are digital. And then even sometimes the truck was digital. So we would just create the entire thing. The skateboard was definitely digital. That we had a version of the skateboard that we could scan and then create our own version of it. And so everything is I hate to say it, but everything's fake, but we just kind of create what we want to do and then recreate it with real photography.
Super cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Our next question is going to come from Jana from Whiskey and Sunshine.
Hello there. So I wanted to know, well, and I think Jacob does too.
Me.
What made you choose to voice the pigeon?
Voice.
Well, what's fun about the world of Tom and Jerry is that characters talk. Some characters do, some characters don't. There's never been a rule. And this idea of the pigeons, I wanted to start the movie to see all of New York. New York is always beautiful from the sky. And so as we were doing it, then at one point it was like, well, we need to kind of show the world that we're about to get into. So I started to think about, okay, let's put pigeons in the scene. And then at some point I said, well, let's do a song over that. So it makes you laugh, makes you feel good as we're coming into this movie. And then literally out of a joke, I said, wouldn't it be funny if the pigeons were rapping? And everybody in the room with me laughed. And I said, let's make the pigeons rap, because basically, why not? Since I have a dog talking and I have, a couple of I have some elephants talking, why can't the pigeons talk? And so it literally was that simple.
I love it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So our last question from this group, because everyone else got a chance to ask a question, is going to be from Rory from Mama Contemporina.
Hola. Well, I love the movie. I have the chance to watch yesterday with my kids. I grew up watching Tom and Jerry in Venezuela. It was really popular there. So first, thank you for bringing some diversity to the film. I love the wedding, Kyla, best friend, and Terrence. And also I want to know if there's any strategy to bring the new generations to the Tom and Jerry story. I saw the drone, the selfies, the smartphones, and of course, Chloe Grace Moretz. But also there is any strategy for bringing the Gen Z to the movie, to like the movie?
Well, I think the first strategy was just the main character of Kayla, played by Chloe. We always knew that by having there's always this thing, even when we first started it, we knew that Tom and Jerry, been around for 80 years. we knew that most parents would know who these characters are. And I also wanted to take time to, sometime bring in old stuff, but I also wanted to be sure it would connect with the new generations, because I have a 9-year-old son. Well, he was 7 when I started the movie, but that I wanted to introduce to Tom and Jerry. And so we knew through the eyes of, a younger generation that we might get a little bit more acceptance of these characters. So the strategy was kind of embedded in the storytelling. Just then, if we told them, I guess you could say a younger story, quote unquote, or if we combined a young story with the story of the hotel and what it's going through, that we thought we could get more, it'd just be more accessible to many generations. I just love these characters. I think when I showed my son, he sat and watched 7 episodes straight. And there's just a nostalgia, and there's just a fun feeling they give you. And I just wanted to be sure no generation wanted to not, I wanted every generation to enjoy it. And so that was basically the strategy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, before we go, I want to see if any of the kids had any other questions for Tim. Any second questions we want to ask? Oh, Meredith does. Meredith, what's your son got to say?
Go ahead, Isaac. How'd you make the objects move and the actors interact with them?
Here's what's interesting. We did a combination of, sometime we would actually have them on whether it's a string, if they're going to move, like, if we're going to pull them out of a shot, we might use something as simple as just your fishing line, which is most of the time invisible to the camera. We would do that. But most of the objects that they kind of interacted with, all of those were CGI created. So all of them do not really exist. Or if we took them from an object that exists, we created our own version of it. Because normally when you get into post, you want to have the freedom to move it and do what you want to do with it. So most of the objects that they interacted with, anywhere from the glass that Jerry and Tom had and they would drink, or the champagne bottle that Tom ends up shaking up, and actually it was apple cider, and that we threw all that stuff is CGI created.
So cool. We have another question from Adam Cohen.
Hi, it's actually Adam this time. I appreciate you answering Mark's questions earlier. So my question goes directly, you've referenced like Who Framed Roger Rabbit in this junket today. And I was wondering, how much inspiration have you pulled from the, in the last couple of years, we've seen some live action mixes, but really going back to Roger Rabbit, how much inspiration did you go back and think about how they did that then, and how much you're going to do now in terms of sliding in between the reality and the CG and, in that way?
Well, look, I mean, there's a lot of movies that have come out, everything from, hedgehogs to chipmunks to, there's so many different movies that have used their own version of it. One thing that I knew I did not want to do is try to make them feel like they're actually in our world. I always wanted to keep it separated. So just as Roger Rabbit, or even as far back as Mary Poppins, I actually went to kind of the old school, version of what they've done with these movies before, and just wanted to kind of, at some point, I must admit, I used maybe those 2 films for inspiration. And then I just went to the old Tom and Jerry cartoons. And even though they're inside of a home or this and that, what was always great is, even we had some earlier concept art where we literally took those setups and just put Tom and Jerry inside of a real setup of what they might have been inside of one of their shorts. And that's really the inspiration. And then after that, we just made sure we made a movie that would incorporate them and make sure that they always, they are the stars of the movie. So we always have to make sure they were first and foremost in terms of telling their story. So I must admit, it's fun doing movies like this where you just feel like you get what it's supposed to be. And I watch Tom and Jerry every afternoon after school. And there wasn't a lot of, it's weird. So much of it was kind of me going back to when I was 8 and 9, and that's all I really needed.
So great. You guys, we have one more time for one more second question. So it's going to come from Megan Cooper from Jaw Monkey.
Right here.
Why do you do some of
Aside from Tom and Jerry, what are some of your favorite cartoons growing up?
Oh, what a great question. I actually give homage to it or kind of wink to it in the movie. I'm not sure if any of you caught it. There was a Secret Squirrel cartoon that used to, and I used to watch Secret Squirrel. I loved the Flintstones. It was just one of my favorites. And I'm trying to think, the Super Friends. Oh, there's so many. As I'm starting to think back, and even the Thundercat. Oh, there's a lot of them. I'm trying to remember Wacky Races. I don't know if you guys remember Wacky Races, but there were just so many cartoons that the list goes on. But those are a few of them.
And thank you so much, Tim, for taking the time to chat with everyone.